recording.
I came back to,
Ready? Okay.
I came back to Independence Way and which way did you go?
I had to go to Denver.
And I got video dangerously of all those trees changing colors while I was driving. Did you go to the Independence Way?
Going in.
Both ways?
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's a little precarious, that little pass.
Yeah, I was shocked on the one way.
When you started your new job?
I started Monday.
That's right.
I had to prepare my family for me going as a middle
Ready? I'd like to call to order a regular session of the City of Trinidad Tourism Board, Wednesday, September the 28th at 9:02. Take roll, Marty.
Campbell? Kress?
Here.
Michaels? Here. Miller? Richardson? Here.
Petitions or communications, oral or written?
I have no one signed up.
Approval of minutes for August the 24th, 2022.
I would move to approve the minutes of August 24th.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Old business.
Oh, invoices.
Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of invoices, we'll just approve them all together, is that okay?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve our invoices.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Old business, RFP for marketing and advertising services.
So, the RFP was reviewed by, city staff and approved, as written, except, I have told them that the $100,000 that was in the line for, compensation for that position, was only a placeholder, and so what you need to do today is, when you make your motion, you'll see on the draft that I whited out that $100,000, I meant to redo it, but I didn't have time, so anyway. In discussion with others, we reviewed the budget for outside contract services, which right now has been proposed for 2023 at $50,000. And you do have one contract with Erica for the web management at 10 hours per month at $70 an hour. So for a year, I think we figured, what, 84, Si? So if you subtract that 84 from that 50,000, that leaves you 50, yeah,
42.
42. So it's being recommended that your annual budget for this position would be $40,000.
I think that sounds realistic for somebody to do it, because it's not a full-time position. I mean, the person that does it would be
Right.
10
They would-
people's stuff, they wouldn't just do ours.
Well, I think this RFP wasn't just about doing some graphics, it's also about like helping us focus on what we should be advertising and create some
Right, so we
scope.
could kind of negotiate that price as we go.
Yeah, so would it be 40,000
Right.
up to the end of this year or starting in 2020?
Starting 2023.
And
I
when
don't
we-
think we're gonna get, I don't know, I think what we had before was from 10 years ago, and that was probably more adequate. Apparently,
So what we did, just for past history, what we've done in the past when we utilized that contract was somewhere, between, around 100 or 150,000, but that included all the paper ads, that included all the stuff. The raw labor of it was probably somewhere around 40 or 50,000.
So that included the media buy.
Yeah, it included the media buy, it included all the stuff, like when Hess's do it, which is one of the major ones that did it, that included like everything Marty does. It included everything, it included ads, it included, we basically really only, like how we used to see this, how we used to see the bills, they used to just say, like, here's all the bills for the month, and that's $32,000, because it had everything included, so it was, so, you know.
So are we going to keep the, I just feel like creating digital content, especially like video
It's the most
content,
important.
and being able to, do things on places that we don't, TikTok and
Yeah.
doing ads on Spotify, things like that. I mean, we can, I guess, we can pay for the advertisement
Right.
outside of this, but creating that content, I think that 40,000 in today's world is not gonna go very far, because one video production, I mean, what do you pay for, you've done some video productions, like, no, you haven't.
No, so that's what we're using the marketing grant for. The CTO marketing grant will be for video production. So using that grant, we will have all our video production inside that bucket. So it wouldn't fall into this.
Okay, so,
That's an additional, actually, if we get that grant.
but that's also marketing, so if it's, are we asking for the full 25,000 on that, or is it more now? It's actually more,
It's 40,000.
40,000, and then we don't match it, so it'd be 80,000
It would be 60,000, so our match is
20.
20.
or 20.
Yeah, so I don't even know where that would go with it, I mean, know that,
But if we don't,
We
sorry,
have-
yeah, no, I mean, I just know, like, I don't really know where that would go, I mean, you bring up a great point, cause I don't really know where that would go. Like, I do know, like, when there was a TV thing done, and it was like $5,000, and you look at it, it was like $3,500 for the production and $1,500 for the person doing it. So I don't know how 40,000 would go or not.
I did a video production for the Distillers Guild when we first launched it, and it was kind of early, and he wanted us to, he gave us a deal because he wanted to get more business from that organization at some point. And I believe, and it was short, it was like very, very short, but he did go around to our different distilleries and took video and whatever, and I think for like 30 seconds of a small promo, it was at least $10,000.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Because if they're gonna go around to places and take that, and this was 5 years ago,
Yeah, that's a lot.
right? So I just think that,
So is there any verbiage, since we have the 40,000 in our thing, is there any verbiage we can use that the contract would start to be up to $40,000 to be determined if it needs to be greater amount than that, or something we could monitor it, so that after, if we see.
Keep it down to
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
we could say.
so if they started that.
because I
in
think if we're
5
gonna
months-
ask somebody to pull data, like who actually is visiting here now post 2020? Who's coming and who's spending money? And where should we really focus our marketing dollars and come up with a strategy for year 1, 2, 3? I think,
That information is available, so now the city has contracted with Placer, and I'm doing training on it, Wally's doing training on it, I think Talitha's also doing training on it, so that data is now accessible to us,
okay,
and so we can access that data and then
And give it to
give
these
that to
people.
our marketing agent
So
and
that's
let
like
them know
a
exactly
place.
where
Yeah.
we're going, so it'd be a team effort for sure,
Yeah.
to figure out where our marketing is best.
I just don't think we're gonna get good RFPs at that price point. I just
Yeah,
don't.
well, could we start to advertise it that way, Marty, just the way I said, like, initially to be 40,000 to be determined, based on, just because that's in our budget?
So your wording on page 3 reads now, proposer should submit a preliminary marketing plan based upon an annual budget of, and that's where you'll plug in your number. Said budget amount should include all of out-of-pocket expenses, reimbursements, and service fees. So that's where you can put the language where if you put the $40,000, annual budget $40,000 in there, the next sentence could read how you put it, Si.
And then, and in there, that this is just for the labor amount, because obviously the billboards, we're still paying out of our pocket. And
So I think we just need to specify that this is for the plan and the design concepts, but I don't think it's enough.
So your scope of services on page 2, the services consist of, and then it lists the 9 different services that we're expecting to be done for that amount. Art direction and conceptual design for printed marketing materials, online social market development, billboard advertising, so like Chris designed the billboard ad. Broadcast media marketing, so they would put together ads for our KCRT promotion. Promotional items and other efforts, so all that stuff under scope of services would be what would be included for this total marketing budget.
I just know, I know this name makes everybody in this room upset, but I know Juan's getting paid $60,000 per book right now for those that he's doing.
Which books?
Those little cycle guides as one piece of marketing for a community.
So he's getting paid that through the city of Trinidad? or-
No, not from us, but when he's going to the San Luis Valley and Pueblo, and he's going to Bend, Oregon, and he's going to these areas in Arizona and to Maryland, I mean, he's going all over the country now.
And he's making that 60,000 from selling the book, from?
No, that's
Or
what his
doing it for
building,
that-
for creating
for that
that,
each-
for creating that content.
Each community that he
Oh,
goes
he's doing it to
into.
different communities.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So when he's creating a new book for each one,
That's his asking
that's it,
price.
and that's, I don't think that includes printing, I think that includes the creation
that
of that
probably
content.
It does not include printing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, putting that into perspective, that's one piece of marketing, granted, it's pretty involved in whatever, but $40,000.
Does that same guy that does the graphics for our book, does he do for all kinds of books?
I have a copy of
Steve
most.
Neske.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there-
we bought the rights, that's why we have it at the Club 14 on the walls, because we bought all the rights from the guy that does the maps inside those books.
But, anyway, that's what he is doing now, currently on those. And they've just put out, a new one for Pueblo.
So what do
they
you
just
feel
sent it.
that number should be?
I don't know, but I don't think $40,000 in today's money is,
For that type of work?
I mean, yeah, I don't think that is,
So as I introduced this, what I
you had 100 initially.
did as a placeholder.
Yeah.
Right. And that was taken from a previous RFP, and I
And it had
discussed with,
paper,
right, so there was other buckets of money that were available for that budget.
Yeah.
The budget that you're working with right now is your outside contract services budget. That is where this gets paid out of. So, working with the budget for 2023, I expended every line item and
Right.
expended the entire budget for every line item, and this line item did not change. If we had more lodging taxes to put in that bucket, we could take more out, but we are restricted by our budget. So if we could find other buckets that we could take money from to include in this, then we could.
Where are we left with monies left in the other budgets? Did we use like all the money from every one of them line items?
Yes, all of the budget has been expended
And
in all of the line
we
items.
can't pull from reserves to add to this, because we are receiving more money from the VDROs and.
But Cheryl did put that in our budget for this year, because they started doing
Yes.
that last year.
So how much can we up the budget?
Or is there another pot that we could take some from?
Because the reserves just keep growing, you know.
Right, and so you're taking money out of reserves right now for 2
Right.
items.
Right,
For the van and for the SUFA signs, the kiosks.
right, but
So
we
there
have-
should be some money left over in that reserves.
Right, because we have gained more in the last 2 years than we have taken out of there. Just by those two, taxes being taken out of, there's two new places taxes are being taken out of, right? It's the way the two are set up. the VDROs, and what's the other one?
It's VRBO and Airbnb.
Right.
Right,
So
but that-
we weren't getting one from one.
No,
And
we
then
were
now,
not.
and now we receive them from both.
Right, right. So I don't know how much was generated by those two.
It was quite a bit,
That was about 20,000, I'd say.
and that was just one quarter.
Right, so was that offset, or, I don't know, Cy, how were our lodging? How was our lodging? Were we on scale with our lodging compared to last year? With our lodging taxes?
Yeah, lodging's about the same as last year. And yeah, and I mean, there might be, you know, that we could go up by 10 or 20,000. But like, so I don't know how to make it work. I know that the price increase for just labor's gone up crazy amount, so I understand that. When we did 6 TIS, I think the amount of labor money they thought that they would gain from us was about 30 to 40,000, and that was about 5 or 6 years ago. But they had like 20 cities, so when we gave them 30, 40,000, they actually were making $800,000 a year, those 2 girls, because they had 10 cities they were working with, not just us, you know, because this isn't a full-time job, but because the skill level and times, so maybe we need to
Oh, and the
find-
travel down here, from if they're not here already, and the time it takes to get to know the community
Uh-huh.
and all of that, I mean, that I
Yeah.
think is pretty involved. I just,
Yeah,
so I just don't think I don't think we're gonna get very good
so Marty,
responses.
what would you recommend?
I would recommend that you could, pull money from your reserves and redesign your 2023 budget so that you can, because you can, when we have it this year, you can request a budget amendment.
Right.
And so there's
So
that option.
we have to still request a budget amendment for the van and for the kiosks.
Yes,
So we can also make an amendment for $20,000 more for
yes.
looking for this RFP.
And do you think 20,000, 60,000 is enough to start that process?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that, I heard, and this is not verified,
Right.
that, the city of St. George, which is a lot bigger and a lot more established, spent $4 million for a similar kind of RFP.
Yeah, and they're nice on I-70.
No, they're on I-15. They're in Utah, St. George,
okay.
Utah, but they're close to Zion and Bryce, and they're more established,
Right.
and they're bigger, you know, but to just put that in perspective, that probably included the ad buy, so I do think in this total marketing budget,
Yeah,
it should say that, and then the ad buys will come from additional grant monies or
Yeah.
additional funding,
yeah.
so that the RFP knows that there's still money for the ad buys, but they're coming from a
Yeah,
different
no,
pot.
that's a good point.
And it is, laying out in your scope of services, so, I can,
If we get the grant, and if we don't get the grant, then what do we do?
Well, then.
well, I
it's
did have a
grant or other
conversation
fund.
with, Elizabeth, so
Okay.
we do qualify. The grant is, she said it's a good proposal.
Okay.
So that's not a yes, but
Okay. Did we copy somebody else's grant who got it last year? That's what I
Yeah.
did when I got
I
the
know,
grant.
right, no,
I took the hot springs
Yeah.
loop, and I basically took their same concepts and I made it applicable to what we were doing.
Yeah.
But it was statewide, and so they also liked that.
I think this is a good beginning, because then if, you know, we have $60,000 to spend. So what we get for 60,000 is gonna be maybe better than what we've had in the past, and it's gonna educate us as to how we go forward from there. So, you know, it's what we have to
Yeah.
work with.
Well, and I think if we also were that this is for 1 year,
Mhm.
and all things going well would be continued.
And some of
it
this,
is in there.
and some of the stuff like for billboard advertising, they might just say, your billboard should say da-da-da with a picture of da-da-da, but then the billboard company actually produces it and sends it just for
Right.
approval. They're
That's
not
part of our
handling-
contract with the billboard company.
And.
Or they
and
may
then-
say
Right,
that
Marty?
for the cost of one billboard, you can get the reach on
Right,
Google Ads
exactly.
is significantly higher.
Exactly, or this.
Billboards are expensive. I still have
Yeah.
not seen that monument billboard, by the way.
You don't
I
see
look
it.
for it every single time.
Just
and
as
I've
you're
never
coming
seen
down
it.
to the bottom,
There's two
I always
electronic,
catch,
there's
I
two.
caught the caveman, I've caught,
I saw the caveman,
the
I did see.
Fisher's Peak, the Blues Fest. I mean, it plays 24 hours a day.
I see those two electronic billboards and I've never seen anything for dollar, or for, never, and I have everybody in the car looking, every time I go both directions and I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So the caveman is up,
Yep.
Yeah, I was
Trinidad
gonna say, that's the
was
first
up.
time I seen it, I was looking too, but I was.
Artocade was up, and now, I believe Calexico is up.
And someone stopped and took a picture of it.
And she sends
posted
me,
it.
she
Yep.
sends me a cam
Yeah.
shot of all the.
I'm just saying that as much as I drive it and I've never seen it,
Well,
not
well,
sure the effectiveness.
The thing of it is 650,000 people travel per
Yeah.
week on that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that they're looking at, so 650,000 people, we may get some people come down here just to see that, you know, it's, and the way I look at it is it's better for us to be in everything.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's the case. I mean, I think that's where these people maybe have some better, may have some insight into that, because I don't think, you can't advertise to everyone because it's too big of a pool. You need to really advertise to the people who's actually coming and who's actually spending money. Like, there's people who come and never spend money, and then there's people who come and spend money. So who are they, and how do we grow that? And then think about who are the next tier that come and spend money. Like,
And that comes down to what does your city have to offer?
yeah, and I know, like, with my business, when we started, we thought we would have two key demographics. We were wrong. We had the one that we knew we would have, but the other one we didn't have. We ended up having a different group that we didn't anticipate. So we switched our kind of marketing or whatever to really focus on them, because they had money and they were spending money, where we thought we were gonna get this like young hipster group. Well, they don't have any money and our products are expensive. So we realized that they weren't the ones that we should be spending our advertising
Right.
towards.
And that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna learn this now.
Yeah.
Just like you did.
And you can't be everything to everyone, and so it's better to focus on a few small targets, and initially, you know, and then eventually you can grow those.
So to your earlier statement, Dawn, on page 4, B,
I'm glad you know this art, so.
I know, she's.
the board anticipates awarding a 1-year contract for services tentatively beginning January 1, which will extend to the end of 2023 with the option for a 1-year renewal.
Okay,
So there's your renewal piece.
okay.
So with those amendments, they say,
So if we can figure out the funding for a little bit more from our reserve, and then put that in there, then I think we should go ahead.
With an amount of,
60.
okay. So when you make your motion,
And then where is it clear that the ad buys are out of separate pools?
gosh, right offhand that I don't know.
Would it be out of scope of services?
It should be,
One, that number 8, that kind of have something different. So,
no, it should be in scope of services, but I don't see it, so, how would you word that then, Dawn, if I were to add that in there?
if you add that into that scope of services.
Into the scope of services, just,
I would say, instead of just, the services,
I would put something like ad purchases will be made through tourism budget based on grants and other, or outside of the scope of this or something.
Yeah, or in the very beginning where it says scope of services, the services consist of labor only for the successful marketing and advertising individual firm. And if it's labor only, how do they get paid?
Billable hours.
Yeah, and so they would put their billable hours in their return document to us, that they charge $100 an hour or whatever.
But I think you need to be specific that the ad buys are a separate budget.
Yeah, yeah.
It actually says that in number one, our
Yeah,
direction.
you
of
could
budget
put, this,
design,
these
correct.
services consist of, to combine what you're saying, for the labor only and successful marketing advertising firms shall provide the following, in labor and,
So if we just put labor to produce printed marketing materials,
Yeah.
that should cover it, right?
yeah,
Okay.
or labor on following. And have a whole list.
No, I think that's fine, but I still think that, ad buys come from a different, the purchase of the advertisement itself is.
Well, if you put labor to produce printed marketing materials, that's your ad buy, right there. So printed marketing materials would be any designed ads that are published.
All
So
other,
art direction and conceptual design production and project management, which may include labor to produce printed marketing materials, online social marketing and development, billboard advertising, broadcast media marketing, and promotional items and efforts.
any other,
That should cover that.
any other expenses outside of labor hours will be paid for through the Trinidad Tourism Board.
And that is in here, and that is.
Because truly, I would think we would want somebody that has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 accounts, not somebody that's only has
Is it-
one account,
Right,
because that
right.
doesn't mean their skill level's very
Is
high.
that number 4 on proposal format?
Well, but they're not, they're gonna have different accounts of different things necessarily, and so I think there's, they need to show us their professionalism and what they've done, not necessarily the list of accounts that they're also working on. Most of these firms are not one-person operations.
No. I mean,
So in C on page 4 is where it covers that, Dawn. The board will review submitted proposals for completeness qualifications. Contract award will be based on expertise and experience, quality of work.
it's always,
Range of
it's so
services,
hard,
portfolio.
I'm sitting here looking at this, thinking about how hard it is, because we did have at one point, back when, Paula and Murphy had an ad agency, they did a fabulous job. They did a fabulous job when they were local, right? So I'm not really quite sure. I'm not quite sure.
I think the board will review proposals also on, we talked about this, ability to include strategic, time and understanding of Trinidad.
Do you mind if I ask, in the audience, Tom happens to be sitting, what do you think about us wording this contract based on your former knowledge of being a participant to the RFP process and the tourism board?
I think it's important. I'm, in all the meetings I'm at, it's like I have opinions, but it's like I don't want to interject too much, but I appreciate it. But it's if you have local talent, and I don't want to open that can of worms because these guys don't know what happened 10 years ago.
But I think we talked about that. I think if somebody local submits their RFP, then we look at that, of course. But I don't think we should exclude it to other people. I don't think we should exclude it to that, because there just isn't a huge pool here. We saw that with the last RFP we put out. We got 2 proposals and neither of them were very good. And so,
One was not even clear, one was.
yeah, and so I think, we need to, I don't think we should limit ourselves that much, but I do think in this part C, we should say that whoever is awarded this will commit to spending some quality time in this community and getting to know this community
Yeah.
versus, what they think it is. I mean, you see that a lot. You see firms that are working around here where they think Colorado is all about something and they have no idea what it really is like on the ground.
Let me just throw this out too, because I'm talking to the city about something else. And as they've made clear to me, and this, you might want to run this by Audra or Les, but their priority is Trinidad first. Because I'm talking to them another situation, they said, well, it needs to be a I'm just talking to them about something else, and they said, yeah, it has, we want local first. And so that may be a policy, what I'm saying, that might be a policy you might want to check with Audra and Les and make sure that that was put in there. I was here when all that was written, and that was put in there for a reason.
So,
But it doesn't mean though that you have to.
Yeah.
Well-
Well, it may not allow us to.
well,
You know,
How it's written is preference will be given to local contract, or local.
Yeah.
And that's the wording, preference will be given to,
But-
locals.
I do think in part C, we ought to add that if somebody isn't local, we shouldn't put if somebody isn't local, but whoever receives this has a commitment to spend X amount of time or a certain amount of time.
To gain knowledge
to gain knowledge
to
of
gain
our-
knowledge of of what we expect.
yeah, and in the point system on grading them, Tom, we can surely put in points for local contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think
can I-
Tom's right, Tom brings up a good position, because he listens to everything. We should make sure that we run that by Audra and see
Yeah.
what she says, yeah.
I'm often wrong, but never in doubt. So.
Yeah.
So what were you saying, Marty?
So commitment to familiarizing,
To access and gain knowledge of our area that you're gonna serve.
okay,
And I mean, that can take form in different ways,
so local, community, and region. Okay, so I'll add that, as number 11 under C.
Yes.
Of submittal process and selection criteria. So the two changes I've made then are the $60,000 and the commitment that we just discussed. So with those changes, are we good to go?
Do we vote to approve?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the RFP.
With the amendment of the 20,000, right?
With all the amendments that we spoke about,
Okay.
and I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thanks, guys, for working through that, it's something we needed to do.
Yes. New business, funding request for canyons and plains for 2023.
So for the last 2 years, we have supported the Canyons and Plains region since we are in that tourism demographic or that tourism region. They are asking again for $1,000 in support.
Yes.
Marty, is this kind of like money that just helps them keep going, to have,
So they use it for matching
Multiple
grants or, travel to the regions or something. We had to cut down our budget a little bit, so we're doing Zoom most of the time. So we don't have those travel expenses. I've only been to Lahaina once in the last 2 years, just because, well, for lots of reasons. Because we couldn't, and then because our budget was cut. So, I mean, and we do fine on Zoom. I mean, there's so many different counties there's 8 counties in this region, so it's hard for all of us to travel. But yeah, they use it for marketing, for matching grants. We use it for, we did it for, to help out with those pieces that Doug and Lori Holdred
okay.
worked on. So, yeah, there's different things.
So you being on that board representing us, how do you feel that it's now working, being that we've been it's kind of put there by the state.
It's working actually good, and because we are doing so well as in our area, in our county, we kind of have risen to the top. When they're doing studies about how well the region's doing, we're always at the top, because Otero County and Baca County and Crowley County and all of those, they don't have the visitation that we have. So when the Colorado Tourism Office is looking at helping out the region, it helps those statistics.
And it helps this whole area, actually helps them out because they're in with us now.
Well, because we're in with them,
Right.
basically, so, they don't get the visitation in the canyons and plains region that the rest of the state does.
No.
I mean, it's obvious why, but.
Where's the
So-
welcome center there in that area?
Lamar.
Is it Lamar? And do they get a lot of traffic through that visitor center?
They do.
I was looking at that bracket that they have, but I missed the Lamar bracket.
They get 3 times as much as I do at this welcome center.
Really?
Your signage down here needs some love.
Yeah, it really does.
You know,
Can we put that on the agenda, or what are we gonna do? We need to do that.
I mean, I
We
think
need good.
the location is good, it just needs
Yeah.
to
I
be
think
able to see
one
that
of
it's
the
there.
big things is a new sign right there by Sonic.
I actually think we should put a sign, not by Sonic, I think we should put a sign up on, Raton Pass before you get to Highway 11,
Yeah.
to tell people to come all the way down.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing, but I don't
You
know
know.
if there's any big signs there.
But they don't have to be big signs, they can just be the blue sign that's somewhere that you can see it better, 'cause it's kind of hidden.
Oh, a CDOT sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
They take forever.
With that, is there any word on the Welcome Center, like any movement from the city, like are they still talking about?
Transportation.
Okay, so that being said, at the conference, with the managers, we talked about the redesign of the welcome, of all the welcome centers. And so they're hesitating to do any kind of spending any money on our welcome center because they're relocating. But I did ask, because in the last presentation with Tim Wolf, he did say that there was gonna be funding for each of the welcome centers again. And we have not received any, so I asked Karen, my director, I thought we were gonna get some money, and she said, well, the city didn't ask. So I have a meeting with Steve tomorrow morning to inform him of that, so we're gonna be making our official ask for funding from CTO going forward.
What does that ask?
I'm not sure, we're gonna define that, I'm not sure what's in the
Is-
pot
is
that we
it-
can ask
is
for,
it-
but whatever's in the pot, we're
Is
asking
it
for.
maybe for the reinstatement of what was there in the past?
Previously, yes, so,
That's what I would go for, to be added back to that.
right,
Because of the fact that the city's looking at putting a new one up.
right, so that being said, if we get some funding from the state, we might be able to reduce the budget that we have right now for the Welcome Center and move that money back into tourism at the top. So that might be an option for increasing our budget.
And signage, what should we do with that? Should we wait for this new RFP, or should we react and do some sort of signage that we should get for the Welcome Center? 'Cause I just feel like
Well,
we're.
let's hold on a minute, just let me, excuse me.
Yeah.
So our advertising and publication budget is completely expended already for 2022. So anything that you're doing, any advertising publications that you're doing would have to be out of the 2023 budget. So there's really no money to do any kind of signage this year.
I'm just wondering if we could spruce up your front, like,
I think it
Flag
has been
poles.
just with them planners that they've done.
yeah, I mean,
you
the
know.
planters, but I mean, flag poles with lots of Colorado flags on them, or the sign that's on the building right now is metal against the brick, and you can't see it very well. In some way to highlight that so that there's maybe something behind it, so that you can really see it. I think, I see that a lot, metal on brick, and you just can't see them. The Miners Museum has the same thing. Like, I didn't know there was a sign up there forever. And I just saw it the other day, I'm like, no wonder I don't know there's a sign, because you can't see it.
What's the
right.
color in it?
And so if there's a way to highlight some of the existing signage and then give you maybe some more flags, you know, a bunch of Colorado flags in front or something like that to really make it so you see
Yeah,
it.
no, that's a good point. That's a really good point, is to jazz it up.
And then on the
Well, Margie-
bottom one too, you don't see that sign very well. Is there a way to highlight it so you can see it a little bit better? Using the existing sign, but there's gotta be a way to,
Oh, yeah, I could see all of a sudden big letters right there, say Trinidad and all pretty, that's a great idea, is to pretty it up. the outside of
So the other welcome centers are getting the welcome to Colorado,
it. Uh-huh.
oh yeah,
but we're not getting that.
the little brown one.
The one that you see at the
Yeah,
gateways.
that's the other thing, is I do think if you put one of those signs out in front that people can take pictures
Well,
in front,
why don't we
with
buy
Trinidad-
one? If we're
Yeah.
not getting it, why don't we just buy
we could
one?
have somebody make one.
Let's have somebody make
I
one.
think the person, we could ask Carlos and Lee, somebody locally made their
Uh-huh.
front sign and carved it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a similar way you could do the
Yeah.
Colorado.
How
Yes,
is the one,
picture that.
how is the one that they're doing,
How is the one who's doing?
the one that's there now, welcome to Colorado?
There isn't a welcome to Colorado at the Welcome Center. It's on the pass. It's on Raton Pass.
The one that you're just talked about that the other welcome centers are getting.
It's the Welcome to Colorado that's on the gateways at the
I
it's the
haven't
one
seen
that's at the
that.
The
pass.
brown, welcome to Colorado.
When you, when you
there,
first
take
drive into
pictures.
the state, it's the first thing you see. Welcome to Colorado. Welcome to Colorado.
Every
Oh,
access.
okay, and they're putting those,
At the Welcome Centers, they're getting new signs.
Although ironically, it says welcome to colorful Colorado on a brown sign.
I know, I thought that too, they should have like the Columbines or whatever,
I'd like to see a picture of that one.
I'll show it to you, I'll find one. They're really
Yeah.
easy. They're everywhere.
I just made the volunteers vests,
And it has it?
and it has the sign on their vest that says "Welcome to Colorful Colorado."
Mhm.
This patch itself is brown, but the colorful is rainbow. So every letter is a different color. It's pretty neat.
Well, I've made a
This-
lot of signs in my time.
I know you've seen those, Tom. They're
I've seen them.
yeah.
Yeah. But like, the brown is what Colorado has, you know, and I can see where.
I don't know, it's just been there forever, they've used it forever, I'm like, you know, we call ourselves colorful Colorado, yet
We have brown.
we have brown.
So getting back to canyons and plains,
Yeah.
real quick, can we?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
If I can get one of them too.
Somebody make a motion.
I'd like you to make a motion to continue funding canyons and plans.
I'll second it. You're first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed?
And thanks for the information you gave us.
So that's pretty much all the agenda items, but, Tom or Cy or somebody wanna give an update on the governor's conference?
You know, I wanted to, but I don't have my notes with me. If I could do that at the next meeting, I would really love to do that update.
Yeah,
And I did have one more question though too. And my question is, so where it comes from trails to downtown, and we were talking about the trail going up Santa Fe Trail, and, you know, I know it's been mentioned that instead of starting it on Santa Fe Trail, is to start it just a couple blocks from Santa Fe Trail, so it's actually on the trail on Main Street somewhere. Is there, anybody hear any news about the trails or the trail going up to Fisher's Peak lately? No? I think so.
The one thing about it is like when we went through Aspen, you could see where they all started in
Yeah,
Aspen.
The
trails,
that's
yeah.
right, exactly,
Well,
that's,
A lot of that is wayfinding signs that we really are needing a ton of, because there aren't, I mean, there just aren't.
right, right, all the trails are seen from the downtown area, so that's the one thing that we're trying to.
So I actually have one more thing to add. I know last year when I first joined, we were talking very at the last minute, oh, let's do something about Shop Trinidad Local. And it was so last minute, we never got it together. Well, it's almost October, and in order to put together any kind of campaign to support our small businesses on Main Street and to maybe do a regional campaign, we've got to do it now. And I do think that we need to maybe work, I don't know if we have enough time to get with the Main Street people, see if they have any focus, but can we set aside something, or can we create a calendar agenda that for starting November 15th, that we're going to advertise, and this is one place, I'm not a big fan of radio ad, but I think in a regional market here, the radio ads are good. I don't think they draw tourists in, but they draw regional people in to shop local, or to do some Chronicle ads, maybe some Google ads
Well, we
about
also have
supporting
that.
Main
We also
Street for
have
Christmas.
Or from the world.
Yeah,
Right, so,
Tidbits.
Chamber of Commerce does a shop local campaign, usually through SBDC.
Yeah.
And so it might be a conversation that you would have with Amanda. It's a good
Both-
idea.
Both Main Street and Amanda.
Yeah,
If you
and
can
how do we
maybe
facilitate
set
that?
Well,
set
Main
that.
Street, Main Street doesn't have funds, so remind that, they do
But
not
idea.
have an operating
But-
budget.
Some
But do
ideas.
they
But they-
communicate with the rest of Main Street and what's going on, and, you know, I mean, I feel like there's more men in this town with long white beards, like, we should have a white beard contest. And, you know, I mean, I know that the Noah's Ark does the Santa, but something like on Main Street that is really, because the town loves parades, right? So why don't we create some kind of Main Street
They do.
magic?
They do have that parade.
They do, they have a parade of lights
And
every
the
year.
one thing that I saw.
And that's
in-
hometown
in-
holidays.
The one thing I saw in Snowmass was really cool is, they had that, marshmallow thing at there. It'd be cool if we could add that, cause we take our little van down and do hot chocolate. If we could get something like that, and even if we could have a fire pit somewhere like that in that Memorial Park on the nights that we do that,
When we give out our apple cider and hot
Right.
cocoa.
So
yeah,
I-
absolutely.
and I think we should really do that in that Memorial
So I
Park.
wasn't.
One more thing, I'm sorry.
No.
The van is ordered,
Okay,
just
yes.
letting you bring you up to date on
I
that.
got with Cheryl last week and,
So it's in the hopper, we're done, the RFP's been produced, the van has been
Yeah.
ordered, we are all good to go.
and I went and looked at it in Walsenburg.
So can you help us facilitate a conversation with the chamber and that, and see what we can
And
do to
Main
help promote small town or hometown holidays or whatever we call it, I mean, I don't care.
I will do that.
Now,
And then maybe starting sometime, do we have like, part of our agenda, can we add a calendar so that we're ahead of the curve instead of always catching up to it? Like with the advice for the fall, you're doing those in the spring, right? And advice for the winter, you're doing in the summer, so that we have a better sense of what that timeline is like.
Yeah.
I know this has always been my weakness as a business owner, but I feel like for us, we should be a little bit more on top of that.
Starting in the new year.
Yeah. And that will make your life less hectic, I think, instead of giving us stuff at the last second that it is due like tomorrow.
Well, and that'll be something that your marketing advertising
Yeah.
people will be,
Yeah, for sure.
so when that individual or that whoever is hired,
They
we'll
can
sit
create
down
it,
at the
right?
get-go and do historically what we've advertised, so that they have an idea. And we'll do the placer, we'll do the geofencing and find out what our market is, and all that stuff will be done. But yeah, calendar's a good idea.
The other thing that I'd like to
a
say,
look
Marty,
at.
is, maybe if, I could write a little bit of something about what I got on the governor's conference side and Jared, and maybe we can give it to Bill to pass it on to city
Council?
council.
You could even do it for city council.
Yeah, you know, and I think, sometimes when I feel I go to these governor's conference, we're actually now the wrong people to be there because we know so many things that we want that, you know, somebody from city council be represented. Cause, you know, they're in this with us, you know, to make Trinidad a destination. You know, and I know Phil has gone in the past to them, but,
Maybe some city
we,
council members.
I always leave there kind of, you know, rejuvenated and with a lot of good ideas that, the little meetings that I go to that I see, you know. But I'd like to see somebody represented from city council to give them some ideas, you know.
All right, we just need a
Yeah.
motion to adjourn and then we are done.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in
Is there anything
favor?
else I wanna say?
Adjourn at 9:50?
Okay.
So you're going to, you two are gonna put something together on the governor's conference?
Yeah.
And then I'll incorporate it with what Jared has and we'll do a presentation, not a verbal presentation, but
Just,
kind of a
just-
follow-up to council?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny, I don't know if you didn't go to the one that I went to, but,
That's a good thing, we all came up with something different.
yeah, and, But the one, it's kind of scary about, like the county and how the actual tourism thing is set up for 'em. That, it's not about advertising dollars for it. So, and it's not the way it's written up. So I don't know if you ever wanna go look at that and see how it's written up.
Say that again, Tom.
You lost me somewhere, Tom, I really don't know
How
what you're
it's,
talking
when,
about.
when a city applies for the, adding the tax to the motels, how that money can be used.
Well, lodging
Ours is
taxes,
a
you're talking about
lodging
lodging
tax.
taxes.
Ours is already set in the way it's gonna be used, and the county can, there's other ways that it can be used.
Well, they just
Okay, so
changed the law.
They changed the law, so there's a new law that affects counties. We don't have to worry about that, doesn't affect us because we
Counties
are.
can vote the way they want though, each county.
Right, but the city lodging tax as it's set up right
Right.
now is
No.
not affected by any of the new laws
But I'm
because it's
not talking,
municipal.
I'm talking about the county tax.
So county taxes, I mean, they don't have a lodging tax in
They
Los
don't,
Angeles
and I've always, for a while, they
They
couldn't
do
because
not.
of the Bruce laws, but then that changed.
Right, so they can now, but
But those three guys should market for it. Those
They
three
don't,
county
uh,
commissioners should market for a lodging tax. All that lodging up in Stonewall, all that lodging, I don't, just Monument Lake doesn't pay us, do they? So Monument Lake would be considered about that too. There's a lot of money that's sitting in the county, and I know that we like to advertise Monument Lake, but technically, our laws that we do
And they can
Trinidad, but
basically,
if
but
they
it's
had
city owned, that's
I
why.
know, that's why it's so tricky.
But we don't, it doesn't generate any lodging taxes for us.
okay.
So, you know, if the county commissioners could go forward and put that into effect for some voting, when there's a county voting and get that approved, there could be some
And
money
they could
sitting
have
in the
their
county,
act-
there's
they
a
could
Highway
They
12,
could
to
actually have
Monument
their
Lake.
own board.
There's a lot of Airbnbs all throughout the county.
Yeah.
And aren't there ranches, do ranches and things like that in the county too?
Tom, you have to hit the gavel. It's got to make it official. All right, now I